like,
That, that's
where
fa-
did the time go? Oh my gosh.
that's fantastic, and thank you so much, Alice, for being on the author's table. And I'm so glad you're here.
Well, I'm glad for the opportunity to talk.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Alice. And if I were to ask one of your readers or your readers, what would they say about Alice Murray?
Well, hopefully that they would say that they enjoyed reading my books, that I had a way with words, and hopefully they recognize I have a humorous voice.
Yes, you do. I love it. Now, okay, Alice, in one word, describe yourself.
Creative. Creative. I'm always thinking of what I can do next, how I can do something, yes,
And
creative.
and I agree. Now, what inspired you, Alice, to become a writer?
I have wanted to be a writer since I was a little girl. I remember I grew up in Atlanta and we had, pardon me, we had this beautiful weeping willow tree out in our front yard with this branch, and I could go sit in the branch and I would take my pen and paper, no, no laptops back then,
Yeah.
and I would sit out there and write stories. And one of my favorite, I love to read the paper. And in the comics back then, they had Brenda Starr, which people today may not know, but she was the red haired journalist that had all these adventures and went all over the world writing. Of course, I have red hair under the hat. So I wanted to be a journalist and write like Brenda Starr when I grew
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now describe your writing style, Alice, and what intrigues you to write this way.
Well, I love to learn. Part of that is probably because both of my parents were teachers, and in fact, on my dad's side, both my his mom and his dad were teachers as well. So I grew up around teachers, so I was always learning. So
Yes.
when I write, I want to convey information. I want people not only to be entertained and enjoy what they're reading, but I want them to have a takeaway, something that they've learned, whether it's a fact or a concept or a way they look at something. I want them to get a takeaway.
Very nice. Now, Alice, your first book is an
Mhm.
annotated version by Agatha Christie
Right?
called The Secret of Chimneys. Now,
Right.
can you explain to the audience what
Sure.
annotated means
Sure.
and explain The Secret of Chimneys, please?
Well, the annotated ties back into where I want people to learn. So Agatha Christie wrote, she began writing, she wrote over several decades, but the book that I annotated was written in the 1920s. So people today, I mean, that's like 100 years ago. So they're like, they pick up the book and like, I don't understand this word. I don't know what person they're talking about. I don't understand the current events. I don't know what kind of car they're mentioning. So when I did annotations, I went through and at the end of every chapter, I put bonus information. So in the chapter, if they mentioned, for example, there was a Morris Cowley car, that was one of Agatha Christie's favorites, so she put it in the story. Well, we don't know what that is or what it looks like. They don't make those anymore. So I had, I star that, and you go to the back of the chapter, and it's got information and a picture about the car, so you can visualize, and it helps you to understand the story as well as learn things.
That's right.
I put a map in there. I put information about people. If there's like a phrase, because she learned French, so she threw a lot of French phrases in there. And if you don't
Yeah.
speak French, that doesn't mean anything to you. So I had the translation. If it talked about a particular place, I give more information, or here's the map where it's located, so people can. It's kind of like dinner and a show. You get
That's right.
you get entertained, but you're fed information,
Okay.
that you can take away from the story
Fantastic.
that's causing a
I'm
problem.
That's okay. Now, now, um, Now it was released by Endgames Press. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Now, what was the process in using Endgames Press?
well, it was kind of a God thing that I actually got to write this because I had started doing some part-time work for Endgame.
Ah,
Um, I'm my background. I'm an attorney. I did adoption work for a number of years, and so the publisher, I talked to her, and she said, "Oh well, we could use you to do some part-time work, maybe do some copyright applications for us, things like that." And she asked me to do some work, just look into research on public domain. Now that's kind of a legal term, but if a book is books come out and they're copyrighted, so you can't take an author's words and use it for your own.
Right.
So we protect the author for a certain amount of time, but after that, it's in the public domain. Anybody can do anything they want with it. You can quote it, you can turn the story around, like put it on its head. She said, check that out and see if there's anything out there we could do something with. And I checked and I saw, oh, this Agatha Christie book is out there. That's great. And she said, well, how would you like to write it, do something with that? I'm like, oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, she would love to do that. So that wasn't something that had even popped into my creative mind at that time. So it was like a gift,
It was a window of opportunity.
yeah, and I said, of course, I would love to do that. And I learned, if nobody learned anything from reading my book, which of course they should, I mean, I learned so much doing the research for that.
You're
So
right,
it was
though.
personally enjoyable to me to do
Yes.
it.
You're right, though. One that goes in the public domain, it's a free reign.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
it's horrible what some people do. I mean, I
Yeah.
respect Agatha Christie and I wouldn't,
Yes.
and it was like Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. I found out in doing research, somebody wrote Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh,
I'm like, oh my
jeez.
gosh, Jane Austen's probably turning over in her grave. But it's
Yeah.
public domain. But
Yes. You're right. You're right. Now, you also had writing pieces published in the Chicken Soup for Soul
mhm,
and Short and Sweet series. Now,
yes.
Alice, describe what those writing pieces were and what those publications are, please.
Well, Chicken Soup, I think most people are familiar with that. They do different topics and they have people send stories in. So it's not necessarily, a professional writer that's doing this. It's personal stories that people can
Yes.
share on different topics. The one I had appear was called Be Flexible, and it was in the book called The Best Advice I've Ever Been Given. And to me, the first thing that popped in my head was, I'm an introvert. I'm not like the big adventurer, go off and do all this stuff, but I just felt like I should go on a mission trip. And my church had an opportunity to go to an orphanage in Guatemala and
Mm.
work with the children, which I thought, I was an adoption attorney. So, of course, this really spoke to my heart. And so I'm like, I don't know. I'm going by myself. I don't know these people. I'm going to a country where I don't speak the language. What am I going to do? So I talked to a missionary friend of mine, and she said, just be flexible. You don't, whatever's going to happen, just go along with it. I
Be
mean, because I'm
yourself.
one of those
Yeah.
people that's going to have the to-do list and know what I'm doing. And that was really the best advice because things would change on a dime.
That's
But
right.
I,
Yes.
I got to do things that I never expected I would do. I didn't plan to do, but it was such a wonderful
It was a
opportunity.
great experience
I
for you.
felt, you can't micromanage your life. Sometimes things come along and you just have to jump on it and be ready for the opportunity. Just like the Secret of Chimneys, that wasn't on my horizon, but I jumped on it.
See, Agatha did it.
Yeah,
She took advantage of opportunities and
absolutely right. Now the short and sweet series, that's challenging. The lady that produces that used to be she was longtime associate editor of the Upper Room, which is a devotional publication,
hmm
and she taught at a writers conference I went to. And devotions are short, and not a big book. It's like 300, maybe 400 words. So she wanted to teach people write short and sweet. So her challenge was write a story where you only use words that are no more than one syllable
mm.
or six letters. And you think that is, I'm like, there's no way I can do that. But then it became a challenge. So they come out with different topics and you write about them and it's like, can I think of a word that's short? And some words you can't, but to the best of your ability. So it's become a challenge. And I think I've been published in maybe 8 or 9 of those books. They come up with different topics. But to me, it's just, I can do this. I'm
That's
going to
right.
find out a different word.
Actually, that's a great challenge though, because when
Yes,
you're so
yes.
used to writing, and then someone tells you write something, it makes you a different thought process.
You have to say what is important and what is not. So usually I'll get it all down on paper. Then you go back. Nope, don't need to know that. Nope, don't
Yeah,
need to
that's
know
right.
that. And for me, it's particularly challenging, especially writing devotions because they're so short. Because as an attorney,
That's right.
you want to be verbose and put all these words in there and go on and on and on. And
That's right.
Nope, nope, you
And
gotta keep it short.
yes, and now speaking of devotionals, and now you write devotionals,
Right,
and for traditional publications such as the Upper Room, in which you
right.
mentioned. Now, what type of devotionals do you write, and describe the Upper Room publication then?
The Upper Room is actually worldwide publication.
Okay.
So that's another challenge because they say use something that's universally understood. Like stay away from idioms that we might use here in the United States or a term or something that somebody's not going to understand.
Our lingo.
Our lingo. So you got to keep your mind open. So there's yet another challenge. So, but it's beautiful. They get lots and lots of submissions. So I think I submitted one. It may have been 2 years before the first one got published. So
Wow.
it's very popular, very inspiring, and it's very, very.
Do you find it
I feel
rewarding?
very honored
Yes.
to have been included in
Yes.
it.
Yes.
I've also written Guideposts also publishes some compilation devotions, and I've appeared in maybe three or four of those, um, but different topics. One was called the Word a Day, and you had to come up with a word and write a devotion on that word. And one of my favorites talk about being creative because I thought the editor's going to see this and they're going to think I'm crazy. I wrote about spinach
Well,
because Popeye,
that's
I
right. I was
it's
just
my
gonna.
favorite color, and I do love spinach. But as a kid, you'd watch, and he ate the spinach and became all powerful. And I'm like, that's like a cartoon, but we can have the power of God if we just take advantage
That's
of
right. Eat your
being
spinach.
so eating His word. We can come like that. But
That's right.
you gotta be creative and make people see things in a different light.
That's right. Look outside the box.
Now,
Yep.
those have been just like little pieces, but I'm happy to tell you, and this since we set this up so long ago, it's been worth waiting for to
That's
talk to you.
right.
I did sign a contract, and I'm having an actual devotional book come out in October. About it's called God Adopted Us First, and it's adoption stories from my 35 years as an adoption attorney and the faith lessons that I
Oh,
learned
fantastic.
because people are like, oh my gosh, it's
Yes.
not an area that people know a lot about, but there's so many faith lessons that you can see in it. You get entertained by what happened, see the heartbreak or the joy, and then what did you learn from this?
That's
So
right.
I'm really excited. That's coming out from Iron Stream October the 7th.
Oh,
Just,
fantastic.
just in time for adoption month in November.
And for the holidays.
That's right. Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
fantastic. And congratulations. That's excellent.
Thank you.
I,
Thank you.
now, how long did it take you, Ellis, to put that together, though?
Well, this has been a lifelong dream because as I was going through this, I thought this would make a great story in a book sometime. So for years, I wanted to do it. But I mean, life gets in the way.
Right.
I was raising children, practicing law. So after my kids flew the coop, I started writing stories down. And so it's been literally 10 years. It's gone through several different versions, and
Sure.
finally it got to where it is today, and I'm just so thrilled to get it out there.
Now, was your process, Alice, like, for example, when you first started thinking about it and writing it down, did you sort of like just keep it like in a folder type of thing and then always go back to it and
No, actually the folder was in my brain.
okay, all right,
When I actually started writing, I would outline it, and say these are the stories that I want to talk about. Oh, I remember when that happened, I've got to tell about
okay,
that.
sure,
So I would outline it, so there was a method to my madness as I sat down to write. But I didn't like keep notes and say, okay, when I actually do this, I'm going to write about this. No, I had to rely. Of course,
okay,
some of the stories are so etched in your brain. I
oh
mean, something
sure,
happened, you just couldn't
sure,
forget
sure.
it.
Now, do you have like a favorite writing like place, like where you can actually sit down and be in your groove and really start
Well,
writing?
I work at home.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm sitting in my home office. So I either sit in here or I sit on the couch where I can look outside across the street from my husband and I live in a townhouse, and there's a wooded path that's right there, so you can see the
Nice.
nature, you can watch the squirrels play. So one of those two places are where I actually sit down and do my writing. Now, as far as where am I when I get my creative ideas? It's usually not when I'm sitting at my laptop.
Okay.
It's two places: walking the dogs or in the shower.
Oh, there you
When your mind is running free. And it's funny because I read Agatha Christie's autobiography, and one of her quotes in there is people say, "Well, where do you get all your creative ideas?" And she goes, "Well, I just go wash the dishes." So it's when you let your mind kind of run free,
Yes.
things pop in there, or God talks to you in the shower. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I'm like, "Oh, I got to get out and go
Yeah.
write."
Tell me about it. I've done that plenty of times myself. Actually, I was just gonna say, just the other night I woke up like at 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to write something down.
Yep.
It's just
That's
one of
what
those.
that's what they tell writers. You better keep
Yeah.
a notepad by your bed. I've had ideas in the car. Um, I remember one time I was driving to work and I had a great idea, and I called my office and left myself a voice because I couldn't write it down. I was driving, so
Well,
but
yeah.
I could call the office and leave a voice.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is this. I've done this too. You remember the little cassette recorders, the little micro
Mhm.
cassette?
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
I used to carry that thing with me, even going to work in the morning. If I had an idea, I flip that on and start talking, and then I
Yeah.
would play it back to myself later on. That's it's just like if I'm driving or whatever, I would just
Mhm.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't understand about the creative process, I don't think, if they're not a writer or composer or whatever, because I remember I said, I just find it hard to, and then people will say, well, just schedule a time. And I'm
Not
like,
always.
it doesn't work like that. I mean, maybe editing something
Yeah.
might work like that, but when you're actually creating, it's like you got to be in the groove. I mean, I know you write, so you understand that, but I
Yes.
can't just sit at my laptop and say, "Oh, I'm ready to go. I'm going to
No.
be creative now." And you just don't.
It
It's not like a faucet that you
no.
turn
It doesn't
turn
always
on.
work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way.
No.
So,
Now,
yeah,
Alice, you write a weekly blog
yes,
called Wondering Woman.
yes,
Now, which features current interests along with sarcastic humor.
oh yes,
Now,
yes.
now, what is Wondering Woman?
Well, as I said, I love to learn. And you read stuff in the newspaper and or hear it on well, hear it on the news or see it online. I'm like, well, but what about this? Or they don't tell you enough. I mean, okay, that's nice that this is happening, but where is that? And what does that have to do with me? Or I don't understand what this means or the consequences are. So I pick something that I think is going to be really interesting to people and I look into it
Yes.
and kind of do a deep dive and make sarcastic comments.
Not
I mean,
Alice.
but I am Alice, so of course Alice in Wonderland. Well, I am wondering because I'm asking about these different topics, and it can be anything. It could be politics, it could be current events, it could be what's going on in the news. The one I wrote the last week is about talk about horror. The truth is stranger than fiction. My last week it was like there's this research crew down in the Antarctic, and they're there for 13 months. They're just there. They're cut off from the world, and one of them has just gone off the deep end and started attacking the others. And you're
Oh
like,
no.
oh my gosh, you're out there. You think of like Alien, the movie, you're out in space, nobody can do anything. You're kind of on your own.
The
And I'm like,
Shining.
oh my gosh, what's going on? Does that really how the research goes down there? How do they do this? What are the conditions like? And it's like, oh my gosh, who would think that, being isolated, would drive people crazy, sarcastically, of
It's
course.
like the cabin fever.
But it's interesting things
Yeah.
are like there was a Coast Guard station out in California and they had to abandon it at least temporarily because mice took over. And I'm like, okay, we're defending the country against
But
outside dangers, but we can't keep the mice. The mice have driven the
it's like,
coasties out of
how big
it.
are the mice?
I don't know, but apparently the coasties like Cheetos and stuff like
Oh
that,
my
and so the
gosh.
mice were. But it's like it's just interesting things like that. And in fact, one of my writer friends, she goes, I just rather get the news from you because it's more entertaining. You get more out of it.
So it comes back to there's the news. You find anything in the news, you know, and it never gets boring, no matter how you look at it, you know.
But you want to learn something because I say in this country, and you're like, okay, well, where is that? What's the significance? What are they known for? So I try and give people background. I mean, you
That's right.
understand it, and
A
it's,
different
like
perspective.
I said, I do things that I'm interested in, and I
Yeah,
think other people might find interesting, and I learned something if nothing
that's
else.
right.
Now,
Yeah.
since I'm writing all the time, I also have a faith blog that I write. It's called Feet to Faith,
Mm,
on pathos.com, and I usually do a weekly column there, and it's the same thing. It's like, I've never heard of that. What is that? So it may be current topics, or even like last week in my Sunday school class we're studying Exodus, and they talked about Via Maris, and I'm like, what's that? Well, it was a huge trade route back in the ancient world, and the Israelites avoided that and went through the wilderness instead. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I want to learn about that. So I wrote about that and how that might, how we think about what we think the best route
mm.
might be, as opposed to what God thinks the best
That's
route might
right. That's
be.
right.
So I'm just constant. I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly looking for new ideas and trying to, like I said, learn, but in a fun way.
That's
Enjoy it
correct.
while you're
Yes.
learning.
Yeah, like they say, information is power, right?
That's absolutely right.
Yes.
Absolutely
Yes.
right.
Now, Alice, what do you call a snowman's dog?
A snowman's dog. Oh, I know this. I've
Oh,
heard it.
come on, Alice.
Frostbite or something.
No. Okay, the last word is puppy.
Puppy. Snowman's dog. I give up. What is
A
it?
slush puppy.
Slush puppy. Oh yes. Oh yes. I love humor. Yes.
I had to get you on that one.
You had to get me. That's right. That's a good one for me.
So what do you like? What's your when you post something like each day?
Mhm.
What do you get out of that?
Well, again, challenge. I like a challenge.
Yes.
And with the humor, I do post something funny every day
Yes.
on Instagram and Facebook. And so that's a challenge to me because I think life is difficult. And I think if you can laugh,
That's right.
um, that helps people through it. And it's something to look forward to. you know it's not not to downplay anything. I understand there's times people need to say, my husband's sick or my daughter's having surgery, things like that, but it's something positive because there's so many negative things out in the world.
I agree.
So I want to do something positive, so I commit to putting something funny out every day. And then I also want to post things that will help people learn. Like I learned a new word yesterday that I posted about, and I'll probably massacre this, but it's librocubularis, which means someone who reads in bed. So I had a picture of me, the book in front of me. I'm reading, and you can see at the end of the bed the dog's snoozing. I'm a living whatever, but my dog isn't.
You put the dog to
So I
sleep.
teach people things too. So
Yeah,
and then the third reason I think so it's be positive, teach people something, and then it's a challenge for me. I want to keep my
that's right.
mind going.
That's
I'm
right.
not actively practicing law anymore, but I don't want my brain to go to mush. I think it's fun to have a challenge. And can I rise to the challenge? And you feel, yes, I can do it. I
That's
did
right.
it.
I
Yeah.
think that's excellent you do that though. You know,
Yeah.
for not just for yourself, of course, but for others that yeah, there's so much going on in the world, and then to come and read your stuff, I think that it can either change somebody's direction that day, even
Mhm.
just make them laugh, just forget
It's
about something that's negative.
and you never know the impact you're going to have on somebody. I mean,
Absolutely.
sometimes you'll hear, but I actually had someone messaged me on Facebook, and I had sent a joke in Reader's Digest. I know the younger generation probably doesn't know Reader's Digest, but we had that on my parents' coffee table. I sent a joke in uh, to Reader's Digest, and I had this lady that actually tracked me down and sent me a message on Facebook, and she said, I was going in for outpatient surgery and I was so nervous about it. And there was a Reader's Digest in the, I guess, patient lounge or whatever while she's waiting to go back. And she said, I read your joke. And I just started dying laughing. And she said, that made me feel so much better and helped me to get through it. She said, even now I just crack up. I think it was, what do you call, oh gosh, what font is alphabet soup written in? And it's Times New Ramen. But you just never know. I mean, that made a huge impact on her day, just that little humor thing. I mean, if that's the only impact that it had, it was worth it to me because it
Absolutely.
helped somebody through a difficult time. But humor really can help people.
That was in the joke section of
Reader's Digest, yeah, you
and
can
and
submit
and the
it.
larger print too.
Yeah.
Not that I know that, but
As we get older, yes, things get harder.
that's awesome. That's awesome. But that's all it takes, you know.
Yeah.
Just something like that for someone that's gonna have like a nervous day, a bad day, whatever, and something like that can change their whole direction.
But I mean, it really must have had an impact because I mean,
Yeah.
she tracked me down. I mean, she did the research, found me online. She said, "I know this may seem crazy, but are you the Alice that had the joke in the Reader's Digest?" And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." And she's like, "Let me. I have to tell you this. It meant so much." And I was like, "Oh," and I really appreciate that she
Of
reached out
course.
because a lot of times as a writer, you write things and then you just never know.
That's right.
Okay, it goes out there. Did it touch anybody? Did they like it? Did it make them think? Did it,
That's
what
right.
impact did it
But
have?
that had to make your day as well.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it gives you some encouragement.
that's right.
Yes.
Now, Alice, do you have any other writing projects coming up?
Oh, I am always writing. I just I signed a couple things. I signed a contract with Guidepost. They do a devotional series called All God's Creatures. And it's
Ah,
devotions that relate to animals and faith lessons you can get out of animals. So I just sent 5 devotions in
fantastic.
for that. And I am also writing, it's called Messages from Above. And I have a story that I'm telling about something that where I God literally sent a sign. It involves a sign. I actually had a hard time. So I'm working on that story right now
Oh,
as well.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm always writing.
I know. Now, you have something coming out, I believe, next month, right?
No, I don't have anything coming out next month. Things get moved around.
Ah,
So
now, was
yeah.
that something Murder of Roger Ackroyd?
Yeah, that's kind of been put on the back burner for
Oh,
right now.
okay.
Publications, you have a target date and then things get pushed back depending on what's going on. So
Okay.
that's kind of on the back burner now. But that's okay. I
Yes,
have plenty of things to be writing right
that's right.
now.
Now, but that also is Endgame Press.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, then I'm assuming that Endgame Press for you is working out very well.
Well, I had The Secret of Chimneys. Now Iron Stream is putting out the adoption devotion.
Yes.
And then I have pitched another devotion book that I'm trying to get published, and it just depends on who wants it. They can fight over me.
Yeah. It's a great feeling,
Hopefully,
isn't
they'll want me.
it? It's a great feeling, isn't it, Alice?
Yeah. Actually, my heart right now, I mean, not that I dislike the Agatha Christie, and I learned that Agatha Christie was actually a very strong Christian, so I don't have any problem, working on
She's a
Agatha Christie.
very strong woman, though.
Oh, yes. I mean, she said she loved to write because she said it makes me feel closer to God when I'm writing because He's the creator and I feel like I'm acting,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're made in His image and I'm creating, so I feel close to God. But my heart right now is really on the devotions. I think that's where my writing path is going. I think that the Agatha Christie annotation was a good start to get
Yes.
me out there, get my feet wet, see what the publishing process was, and but I really feel more led to the devotions right now.
Okay, excellent. Now, what advice, Alice, would you like to share with the viewers that would like to, someone that wants to start and they don't know where to begin?
I think the biggest advice I would have for anybody that wants to write is to get involved with a writing critique group. That was what gave me and my writing career the biggest boost.
Mm-hmm.
Because sure, you might think you know how to write
That's
and you
right.
have talent, but you've got to refine it and you've got to put it in a form that a publisher or an editor is going to be interested in. And to have the encouragement of other writers, I
That's
mean,
right.
because you ask your spouse, would you read this? Oh, that's good. Like
Yeah.
that tells me nothing.
That's right.
Whereas if you go to a writing critique group,
Absolutely.
and I'm involved with Word Weavers, which is a Christian writing critique group, and
Hmm.
they're very positive and encouraging. And everybody there is just trying to help you. So if they say, "I don't think you're being very clear here," or "that word doesn't fit," they're trying to help you.
That's right.
So
And I,
that's and they give you information on opportunities or answer questions. How do I approach a publisher? What do I do? So that is the best advice I could give is get involved with a writing group, writing critique group, so you can refine your work. I mean, if God gave you the writing talent,
that's
then He
right.
wants you to do something with it, and
Abs-
you need to refine it and then get it out there.
Absolutely
Those
right.
people are going to help you,
That's right. And I think too, you have to be open minded and don't take it to heart.
and that's hard because it's
Yes.
your creative baby, and
Right.
but you think you know what you're saying, but when somebody else reads it,
Yeah.
that's why a critique group is important because they'll read it. There's an example of readers, and if they don't get it, then
That's
then
right.
you need to work on it.
That's
So
correct.
it is literally constructive
That
criticism,
is correct.
not negative.
That
Yeah.
is correct. I always look at it, we're all in the same boat.
Hmm.
We're there to help each other.
That's
Even
right.
though we're at different levels, and
Hmm.
that's okay. You learn from each other.
That's right.
Doesn't mean you have to use it. At least you're listening and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, that's okay.
That's right. Yeah, it's ultimately your decision. But I mean, I knew nothing about publishing when I started out. I know more now. And then I
Hmm.
feel like, hey, I want to help other people because I know people help me. So
That's
when people have
correct.
questions in me, pay
That's
it forward.
absolutely right. Now, Alice, do you have a website?
Yes, it's on Wix, Alice H. Murray at Wix.
Fantastic.
And I will update. In fact, that's one of my to do list things. I have to update that for the month.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
now, since you use Wix,
Mhm.
now did you create it yourself?
I did.
Excellent. So
I
what?
did.
So how did you actually approach that? What was your
With fear
process?
and
Oh,
trepidation. I am not a techie person, but I have learned that if you're going to write, you need to understand some technological things
right.
because you got to get yourself out there. I mean, you don't write and then it magically goes out, and you've got to get it out there. How do I get it out there? How do I post stuff? So I may go to a site, as my writing progresses, where I have somebody do something a bit, more fancy. But I wanted to try something on my own. And they said, I did some research and they said that was the most user friendly. So I
Hmm.
thought, okay, well, I have control over it.
That's right.
I will see what I can do. I can see what goes into it. I can see what I don't know, which was a lot. I've learned, and believe me, I still have more learning to do. But to me, I wanted to see what went into it and what I could do on my own.
Yes.
And believe me, I know I may need help down the road, but I wanted to at least try it on
That's
my
right.
on my own.
I agree because my website is Wix too.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I with all the different research and stuff that I found, that Wix was very easy to use,
Hmm.
and it has tons of
Hmm.
templates to choose from.
Right. Right.
And let's say you choose a template, you can change it.
That's right. That's right.
And I agree. I liked Wix, and I think it's a great outlet, for putting your books or whatever you want on there. And it is easy to use.
Well, you talk about starving artists, and you think about the actors and the way. I mean, it costs money to write, and if you're going to pay somebody to do a website, that's expensive. And when you're starting out, you may not have that. But I mean, I think it helps to understand what the process is and what goes into it.
Correct.
So,
It's not like we have to put the HTML in there.
right. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness I was going to say the same thing. Now, Alice, you also have a radio spot on
Yes.
Christian Mix 106. Can
Yes.
you talk
Yes.
about that, please, Alice?
Yes. I called it, I like alliteration. So it's Murray's Motivational Moments.
Awesome.
Christian Mix 106 is a digital radio station, so you can get it on your laptop or phone or whatever. My piece is 2 minutes, so it's a little motivational, devotional type thing, and it's aired on Mondays. I believe it's 10 and 2 Central Time. So once a week. So there's another challenge because you have to keep producing. And
Awesome.
then, of course, there's technology involved because you have to record it and send it off.
Yeah, I know.
Like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I hate technology. Why am I doing this? I thought I could just write. No, it's more than that. But I enjoy doing it. It's kind of weird to hear my voice when I record.
Say, is that me?
Not me. So yeah, that's another challenge because coming
Yeah,
up with something on a weekly basis,
that's right.
that's going to catch people's attention and hopefully be motivating to them.
That's right.
Yes.
It's very fulfilling, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I enjoy doing it, and it was like it's funny because when I first started, I'm like, okay, well, I'll try and come up with something, and I've kept a list, and I think I'm up to 131 spots that I've done so far, and it's like,
Oh,
gosh, when I started, I never thought I could, do that, and it's amazing when you push yourself and try and rise to a challenge.
that's
You're
right.
like, well, yeah, I can do this.
And
Yes.
yeah, and that's great. Because then you overcame it, and then when you look back at it, and you start thinking of other stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
You
because
got to keep your eyes open. It's amazing. You look around and there's always things that,
that's right.
oh, yeah.
I always say too, if you don't try, you fail.
That's right. You
Y-
know you're not going to do it if you don't even try.
It's
So,
right. You have nothing to lose. If you try it and you fail, that's okay. Then you learn from it, and then you move
or
on.
you may say, "Hey, this isn't for me." I mean,
That's
because there's all different types of writing. I mean,
absolutely,
I may focus
absolutely.
on I don't think I'm a fiction person, but you might try it and say, well, yeah, but that's
That's
just
right.
not for me. That doesn't necessarily mean that you failed. It's just kind of like guiding you, like, okay,
Yeah,
let's change course and maybe move a little over this way and away from that. So
yeah.
it's all learning
That's
and
correct.
finding where you need to be.
Absolutely right. That is great advice. Now, I will see you in August, August 20th, at Word Weavers.
Okay.
And I will be on there, and I'll be the guest speaker there.
I will
Yeah.
look forward to it. I
Yes.
will look forward to it.
Well, thank you. And
You're
Alice,
welcome.
this has been a fantastic meeting with you today. Finally. Yeah.
Months in the
That's right.
making.
That's right.
Yay.
I love it. But I wish you the very best, and you're doing
Thank you.
fantastic though. It's
Thank
awesome
you.
that you're doing all these different areas and stuff to spread the word.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Well, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I've enjoyed talking to I
yeah.
love to talk about writing and being creative, so I thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Well, of course. I think it's just fantastic that you're doing everything you're doing.
Well, thank
And it's you start off with Agatha Christie, and then it just branched off, and because you have
you.
that drive, and
That's
and
right.
and you don't know where it can take you. That's
Don't
the
know.
nice
Every
thing.
day is an adventure.
Yeah, and I say, your attitude is awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And just keeping the joy and the cheer going. That's what everybody needs.
Yep.
And I just love the hat. I, I
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. That's
I like the hat, the lace gloves.
that would have been a nice touch, but I love the hat. But I really appreciate it, and you're just awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Well, I
you're.
look forward to seeing you in August so I get
That's right.
words of wisdom from
That's
you.
that's right. Then you can ask me all the questions and stuff that you
That's
want.
right. We'll start making a list.
That's right. But no, they're fantastic, and I wish you the very best, and I know you're going to do excellent. You're going to do very well, and
Thank you.
just keep me in the loop of your new adventures too.
I will. I
Yes.
will.
And you have a fantastic rest of your day, Alice, and I will
Yes,
see
thank
you
you.
in August.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so
Thank you.
much,
You're
Brad.
very welcome. Okay. Bye, Alice.
All right. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.